the most coveted prize in all of thoroughbred racing, the Triple Crown. We're just over a month away now from the 120th Run for the Roses at Churchill Downs, followed by the Preakness in Baltimore, and then the Test of the Champions, the Belmont Stakes in New York. And no other race has had more of an impact on the Triple Crown in the last 4 years than Turfway Park's Jim Beam Stakes. In the 1990s, every Jim Beam winner has won a Triple Crown race, beginning with Summer Squall in the 1990 Preakness. The next year, Hansel, a double classic winner in the Preakness and Belmont Stakes. And then in 1992, Lil E.T. produced this event's first Kentucky Derby winner. Last year, Prairie Bayou went from the win circle here to the winner's circle at the Preakness. The road to the classics runs through northern Kentucky. In this, the richest Triple Crown prep race of them all, the $600,000 Jim Beam Stakes. Thrifty Car Rental, racing across America. Looking at the skyline of Cincinnati, where the 1994 Major League Baseball season starts tomorrow night on ESPN. And across the Ohio River is Turfway Park, Kentucky's winter home of thoroughbred racing that has suffered through one of its worst winters in history, closing this track for 15 days. But today, the sun is out, the temperature is up, and it's time again for a toast. It's Jim Beam Day at Turfway Park. And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. Welcome to the 13th running of the Jim Beam, the 9th here on ESPN. When you put $600,000 up and have a race with this much history, you attract some of the nation's best thoroughbreds. As we move closer down the Triple Crown Road, there are some stars that are fading, other stars that are on the rise. Let's show you one of those rising stars right now. He is our morning line favorite, Southern Rhythm. Here, winning the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn, he trailed at the head of the stretch, then came on to win by 2.5 lengths. He now has moved into the favorites section of the daily racing form Derby Contenders in today's edition. But he's got some challengers that have followed him from Arkansas. They've come from California, Florida, Louisiana, and right here from Kentucky. They're all here this afternoon to race in the Jim Beam Stakes at Turfway. Thrifty Car Rental, racing across America, is brought to you by Thrifty Car Rental, historically known for low rates, by Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet, Budweiser, Beechwood Age for a crisp, clear, classic taste, and by Auto Tote, where the action is. ESPN welcomes you back live to Turfway Park in Florence, Kentucky. A year ago, they set an attendance record here, more than 19,300 people, but with the beautiful weather, they have smashed all records at Turfway, more than 20,000 estimated here this afternoon to enjoy the Jim Beam Stakes. You saw the 10th race running behind us as we came on the air. Our 11th race, of course, is the feature of the Jim Beam. Let's take a look at the race conditions. Let's note first, it says grade 2. Under any type of circumstances, this should be a grade 1. When you consider its history and the $600,000 purse, it deserves the grade 1 status. The distance, 1.8 miles for 3-year-olds. First place worth $360,000. All the colts carrying 121 pounds. The weather, never been a better beam day as far as we can remember. Temperatures in the high 60s, sunny skies, light breeze blowing out of the south, and a fast racetrack. Well, joining me now is Chelsea Kenny. Chelsea, it's almost here. It's hard to believe. We're 5 weeks, 70 miles away from the Kentucky Derby.
Well, you know, it slipped up on me too, Chris. I've been so fascinated with the developments in the 3-year-old picture every week that I about forgot about the calendar, because these are exciting 3-year-olds. Instead of a year where you have horses that have raced, say, a dozen times and won 1 or 2 races, we've got a good many of these colts who've only lost 1 or 2 races. But we do have a pattern of lately raced horses here, not only in the national picture, but right here in the Jim Beam. Of this field today of 11 starters, they've made only 28 starts so far this year, so we know they're going to be fresh.
But Chelsea, there are many ways to get, of course, to the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look now at those that decided to go the northern Kentucky route. for the Roses. Here we go.
Well, with the speed from the inside is Polar Expedition. He's won 6 of 8 starts, never been off the board. Hall of Fame jockeys ride our next 2 starters. Shepherd Field gets Lafitte Penkai, and Chris McCarron rides Southern Rhythm, who's won 3 of his 4 lifetime starts. Alvarez comes from the California division of Jack Van Berg's stable. Also in from the coast is Powys Castle, who's never been worse than second. Turfway Park is home for number 6 Dinah Fleet, and Chimes Band has 5-time beam winner Pat Day aboard. Local hero Sir Walter Lies-a-Lot was a good second in the Battaglia. Canadian Road Rush, he's never been off the board. War Deputies won 2 of 3 starts, and Mahogany Hall has won 3 of 4. So we're not short on talent, Chris, but we may need a little seasoning.
Well, Chelsea, through the first 3 months, one thing we don't seem to have a lot of is consistency. Even our Derby favorite, Florida Derby winner, Holy Bull, has had his moments.
Well, you can't blame him too much. He had a very definite problem in the Fountain of Youth, which was the only blemish on his record. It was corrected. He came right back and made amends in the Florida Derby, and he's back on his best foot. We have kind of a system of that here today. We've got several of these colts who kind of had disappointing races last out, and they better get their act together today, or there'll be no Derby for them.
Their time is definitely running out. And time's running out also for some of the nation's top jockeys. They're still shopping for their Derby mounts. I don't think there's ever been a better contingent of riders at Turfway Park in its history. And to talk about that, let's join our colleague in the paddock, Dave Johnson, along with one of the great riders of all time, Hall of Famer, Triple Crown winner, Steve Coffin.
Well, Steve, you've been back in the States for more than a year, vice president of Turfway Park. Taking a look at this race from your perspective, 4 jockeys in today's field have never ridden their horses before. Is there more scrambling going on?
Well, I think so. In the old days, you know, when there were stable riders, it was different. But nowadays, everybody's freelance, and, you know, it's kind of that old situation. What have you won for me lately? I mean, as long as you're winning, everything's okay, but not always if you're not.
What about jockey being too committed?
Well, I read an article that Craig Perrett, you know, had been involved with, and he was saying that if he hadn't have been so available in the last couple of years, I mean, he would have missed out on a lot of big wins. It was the fact that he was free, that he could jump on those horses.
What about when you were on the road to the Triple Crown?
Well, in 1978, it was a great year. There was 3 great horses, Aladar, Affirmed, and Believe It, and they dominated as 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. So we just stuck with them all the way through.
Now, focusing in on today's race, if you sent me back into the stable area to get you a mount, if we could talk you into riding again, who would it be?
Well, I like Southern Rhythm. I like his breeding, and I like the fact that he's won his last 3 races all this year. He just seems to me like a horse that's improving at the right time.
And if I struck out at that barn, who would be your second choice?
My second choice would be Powys Castle, who ran such a good race out in the San Rafael.
And I'd probably try and talk you onto something else. But, Chris, it's not a bad way to handicap the field.
Well, that's what everybody has in mind. It is a great betting race with 11. It seems to be, in many ways, a wide open field. There you see those gathered in the paddock waiting the arrival of our Jim Beam horses. Meanwhile, in the Jim Beam hospitality tent, folks are enjoying hospitality, thinking about a winner for the Jim Beam. When you leave and go back? Yeah. Here they come, the field for the 1994 Jim Beam Stakes from Turfway Park. As they approach the paddock area, our thrifty car rental Racing Across America series. Well, before we look ahead to more of our 1994 Jim Beam, we want to look back at just some of the great history of this event as we present our Hollywood Park Classic clip. The 9th Jim Beam produced this race's first classic winner. It was 1990, and the favorite was Dogwood Stable's Summer Squall under jockey Pat Day.
Head down the stretch they come. Summer Squall takes command with Pat Day aboard, now pulling away by 2. Trying to get a second, the others are far back. Here's the finish of the Jim Beam. Summer Squall by 2.5.
Trainer Neil Howard felt the Jim Beam was the major turning point in Summer Squall's career.
It was the first time that we really had any proof that he was going to be able to establish himself over a ride of ground. So I think that race actually answered a lot of questions for us because, as I say, we only had 1 prep. You know, he ran in the swell, was second a Housebuster, ran a good race, but the 2 turns were still a question. You know, you always anticipate what a horse will do or won't do, but you never know till they do it.
Summer Squall went from the winner's circle here at Turfway to run second to Unbridled in the Kentucky Derby, and then won the 1990 Preakness.
Well, here are the men who have been so much part of this history throughout its 13 years at Jim Beam. Barry Barris, the chairman of Jim Beam Brands, and Jerry Carroll, the master here and the chairman of Turfway Park. Barry, we'll start with you as our corporate sponsor. First, this race has done so much for, I know, this track. Certainly for Jim Beam, it has to have helped them, too.
It's been a wonderful relationship, Chris. This is our 13th year. It's lucky 13. We don't necessarily get all the great horses at Turfway for this race, but I'll tell you, Chris, after the race, we make the great horses, and I think the last 4 years has proved that.
No question about that. With 5 winners of Triple Crown races, you have to be awfully proud of that. I know it has to have had a good impact for Jim Beam.
Oh, it has. It's been good for us. It's been good for Jerry and the track. It's been good for the community, and we look forward to many, many more years of the Jim Beam.
Thank you, Barry. Jerry, for you, what a day.
What a day. Record handle, record attendance, beautiful weather, ESPN. What more could we ask for?
I know you're always planning for the future here at Turfway. What are some of the plans?
Well, the big plan is full card simulcasting, which just passed the other day. We can bring in races from all over the country. People will not only be able to enjoy live racing right here at Turfway, but get in Santa Anita, Saratoga, Hollywood Park, all the great tracks in the country. Distribute the product. Bring horse racing to the fan. That's very important.
Jerry Carroll, Barry Barris, the men have been so important in making this history of the Jim Beam. It's not just the Jim Beam Stakes alone, though. 5 stakes worth more than $865,000 on the card. Charles C. Kenny has a look back at one of the races earlier today.
Well, that race was the 9th race on the card today. It was the Rushaway Stakes. Could have an impact on the 3-year-old picture. The Rushaway is sort of a consolation race, if you will, for colts who really aren't quite up to the Jim Beam. It is named for a horse, Rushaway, who raced in 1936. He won back-to-back stakes races on consecutive days. He won the Illinois Derby and then got on a train, rode 300 miles, and came down here and won the Latonia Derby. So we know he was tough anyway. But let's take a look at this race. As they came down the backside, on the lead is Oakmont, and on the right of your screen, absolutely last, is Ledford from the Claiborne Farm.
And the lead is Oakmont, with Pat Day looking for his 3rd victory of the afternoon. Between horses, Class Olad, the horse with the long gray tail, in second by a head, and up on the outside, there goes Manila Man with a rush. Manila Man now takes second and up to challenge Oakmont. They move down the backstretch. Oakmont on the inside now draws off again, leading it by a length and a quarter. On the outside, Manila Man is second. 41 is in gear, racing a close-up 3rd. Class Lad drops back into 4th position. It's 3.5 back, and Bonus Money is next, and Ledford is next. And on the backstretch, Arezzo has pulled up. There's a 1/4 mile to go, and Oakmont draws clear now by 2.5 lengths with Pat Day aboard. And here comes the favorite, Ledford, on the outside to challenge. At the top of the lane, Ledford on the outside puts a head in front. Oakmont comes back, and down the stretch they come. Oakmont regains command, draws clear by 2. Ledford, the favorite, back in the 2nd spot. Bonus Money is 3rd. The Rushaway Stakes goes to Oakmont, giving Pat Day his 3rd winner of the afternoon. The favorite, Ledford, 2nd. Bonus Money finished 3rd.
It was a good effort for Ledford, who finished 2nd. He had never been around 2 turns. Oakmont was making his 3rd consecutive start around 2 turns. You're going to hear a lot more from both of these colts later. Arezzo, who was pulled up during the race, has preliminary veterinary reports indicate that it is a sesamoid problem. His leg is in a brace, and he is in stable condition. That's Arezzo from the Doug Peterson barn. And there are the results, and we go back to Chris.
Pretty big day, Chelsea, so far. In fact, for jockey Pat Day now with 3 winners. He also won the Bourbonnette with another Neil Howard trained horse, a filly, Private Status, an Aladar filly. So it's been a big day already. Hey, here's some folks enjoying some burgers here at Turfway Park. All we need is a little bit of Ted Gregory's Jim Beam barbecue sauce to spice them up. Well, the big field of 11 3-year-olds still making their way into the paddock. That is Southern Rhythm, who right now is our 2-to-1 favorite for the 1994 Jim Beam. It's horse racing today, but coming up tomorrow night, baseball history will be made. The first time the major leagues have ever opened on Sunday night, and exclusively here on ESPN. It's the Cincinnati Reds hosting the St. Louis Cardinals, 8 o'clock Eastern, the first of 25 Sunday night games on ESPN. Well, I have no clue who might win the pennants this year in baseball. Dave, maybe you can help us figure out who can win the Jim Beam this year.
You know who we need here this afternoon, Chris? We need those guys who went on TV this past week and told us why the stock market went down. because if they were here, they could stand around after the race and tell us why their horses lost. But you know, and our fans know, that we're here before the race. And even as puzzling as it seems, we try and give you the big picture.
One way to solve a puzzle is to start with the biggest piece. Here at the Beam, that piece would be the Southwest Stakes from Oaklawn, which provides 3 of today's starters. The race was billed as a showdown between Polar Expedition and Chimes Band. But no one told Southern Rhythm, who came storming through the stretch to win going away. The beaten favorites, including Polar Expedition, lived to fight another day.
Basically, my horse, I think, ran his race and just got outrun. Southern Rhythm really ran a powerful race that day. And my horse may not have run his best race, but he certainly ran well. We were disappointed we didn't win, but not unhappy with the horse's effort in the race. And he came off it good, and so we're hoping it'll further his conditioning a little bit, that he needed the race.
Another who may have needed his last race is Powis Castle, who chased Tabasco Cat home in the San Rafael at Santa Anita. Now, the third-place finisher in that race was Shepherd's Field, although some 19 lengths behind the winner, leaving trainer Brad McDonald wondering what happened.
I wish I could tell you. What happened in the San Rafael was he made a big move down the backside, and then when the running began, he went backwards instead of forwards. But it was so bad that, you know, we're just going to dismiss it. And we think he's a good horse, and we believe in him, and that's why we're giving him one more chance.
There's always a local piece to this Jim Beam riddle, and this year, there's a trio of runners from the Battaglia. Heading the group is Mahogany Hall, and he is looking very much like a colt that appreciates both added distance and the Turfway Park Oval. But the biggest challenge to our Beam puzzle may be deciding where and if War Deputy and Road Rush fit into the picture. War Deputy really looked the part in winning around 2 turns last year and was well regarded in early future book odds. But his stock plummeted with a dismal effort recently at the fairgrounds. And Road Rush, an accomplished 2-year-old in Canada last year, comes off a good-looking win at Gulfstream Park, but it was only 7 furlongs and took place 5 weeks ago. Truth is, the Jim Beam jigsaw will definitely be solved this afternoon. But like all puzzles, the real fun is deciding which piece goes where.
Well, Dave, I have to admit, I am really lousy at puzzles, but one piece I would have to put in the Jim Beam puzzle is Hall of Fame jockey Pat Day. He's ridden in 6 Jim Beams. He's won 5 times and finished second another time. Earlier today, I had a chance to talk with Pat and asked him just what his secret is to his dominance in this race.
Well, I've been on horses that have been very well prepared, and then we've been blessed with some racing luck in the body of the race, and I've been fortunate enough to get the job done.
Well, Pat, today you come in with Chimes Band, a colt that was a group winner in France, came over and you rode him in his U.S. debut, and very successfully.
Yes, and it was very impressive, Chris. He done everything absolutely perfect that day, was correct in everything that he done, his attitude, his disposition. I mean, he was very impressive that day, and impressed me considerably. And then in the Southwest, I don't believe that the real Chimes Band showed up that day.
How will he be different today?
Well, they put blinkers on him, changed up his training a little bit, and of course I think he's settling into the American way of training somewhat. And Mr. Lucas went over that race in the Southwest with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm sure he's made some major changes, and hopefully the real Chimes Band will show up here today.
You're also the rider Tabasco Cat. You have some decisions to make pretty soon.
Well, it's an enviable position to be in. Right now, we're just looking for both horses to run well. Of course, Chimes Band here this afternoon, and Tabasco Cat in the Santa Anita Derby next weekend. And then we'll, believing that they both run well and are still pointed for the Derby, then we'll have to sit down and make a choice. But right now, we're just very pleased that we have the opportunity to ride both colts.
One thing we don't have to wish Pat Day is good luck in the Jim Beam.
Oh, we'll take all the good luck the Lord will send our way.
And there is Pat Day's mount today, the 7-horse Chimes Band, right now at 7-1. Let's join Charles C. Candy now in the paddock.
Well, in keeping with our theme of lightly raced colts here, we're looking at Southern Rhythm. He's only run 4 times, but he's done everything right. He just missed by a head first time out, going 3/4, and came back and has won all 3 of his starts since then, including his first start around 2 turns. He's trained by James Kiefer, and he's got more owners than he does wins. Half of him was sold since the race at Oaklawn Park, and he's got quite a handful of connections here, but pretty soon those wins will probably get ahead of the number of owners. Nice colt. And here's Powis Castle. He's another fairly lightly raced colt, too. He's kind of come home. He was bred, born, raised, and began his racing career right here in Kentucky, but he went to California after he was purchased. He ran in the San Rafael. It's his only start of the year, and its only race around 2 turns, but trainer Rodney Rash liked the effort.
Well, Tabasco Cat, nothing to be taken away from him. He went out there and hooked Flying J. Bryan and pushed the pace and went on and won the race, running awful. But he had a race under his belt. Antley had never been on my colt before, and he found himself back a little further, and I think he wanted to be, and he pushed on the accelerator, and my colt went a little quicker, and he won it, and he took a hold of it and then went again. So it was kind of a feeling out race. Also, I told Chris in the paddock before the race not to beat him up. And our main objective was further down the road. So I think you should see him improve off that race.
Well, Powis Castle has made only 5 starts, but bear in mind that he has not yet won beyond 6.5 furlongs. Distance is always a question, Chris, at this time of year.
Riders are up, Charles C. in the paddock. They'll soon be coming to the track for our post-parade for the 1994 Jim Beam. $600,000 purse. The winner, $360,000. Welcome back to Turfway Park in Florence, Kentucky. Our 3-year-olds are on the track. Let's go to Chelsea before the post-parade.
Well, one of the colts we talked about who has to make amends after a disappointing performance last time out is Chimes Band, trained by Wayne Lucas. He disappointed as the favorite in Oaklawn Park. What happened?
I don't know, Charles. We've been trying to figure it out. Being in Arkansas, we thought maybe he was a Republican. He doesn't like it there, and he never did. I mean, we felt like he was a little bit dull all the time he was there, and when he trained, he didn't get into it. And as soon as we moved him up to Kentucky, he's brightened up considerably. We're looking for a lot better effort.
Yeah, you got blinkers on him. The most meaningful comeback of all right now is going on with your son, Jeff. How has he been the last few weeks after his injury last winter?
We're real pleased, Charles. He's coming a little bit better. He's getting better, and he's wanting to do a little bit more than he should. You know, he's now starting to feel good, and we've had him out to the barn a couple times just in a late evening walkthrough and everything, and it's been wonderful. And we're so grateful for all the support and everything, and we're just happy to have him back.
Well, we know Jeff is watching, and you all have got a lot to look forward to. Tabasco Cat, Chimes Band. Right now, we go back to Chris Lincoln.
Thank you, Chelsea, and our best, certainly, to Jeff Lucas, Linda, and their family. Let's give you the post-parade now. Starts with the Illinois-bred Polar Expedition, the richest money earner in the field, over $339,000. Won 5 straight before finishing 3rd in the Southwest. He's the speed horse on the rail. Kurt Bork, the rider, Louisiana native, has won many titles in Louisiana and Illinois. The 2 is Shepherd's Field. Won the Grade 2 Norfolk at 2 in California, then 6 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. This year, 3rd, beaten 19 lengths in the San Rafael, his only start. The rider, one of the greatest of all time, the Hall of Famer, defeat Pinkai Jr., leading money winner in this sport. Here's the favorite, Southern Rhythm, a $47,000 Keeneland sale purchase. He won the Southwest at Oaklawn. He's a perfect 3 for 3 this year. And he has the riding skills of Chris McCarron for the first time. The Hall of Famer won last year's Jim Beam with Prairie Bayou. The 4 is Alvarez, looking for his first win this year, beaten less than a length, though, in his last start. An allowance race at Santa Anita, coming out of the barn of Jack Van Berg. The rider, Illinois' riding champion Shane Sellers. He set a record at Arlington for single-season wins, 219. Here is Powis Castle, the colt purchased by Motown record founder Barry Gordy after winning at Turfway in Churchill at 2. He ran a strong second to Tabasco Cat in the San Rafael. The rider, winner of the 1991 Kentucky Derby on Strike the Goal, Chris Antley, now a regular rider in California. The 6-horse, a $9,500 Keeneland sale bargain. This is Dynafleet, a local horse who is 3rd in the Battaglia. He makes his 6th start already this year. The rider, he's Turfway's best. Tracy Hebert won the title last year. He'll wrap it up again this year. The 7-horse here is D. Wayne Lucas's Chimes Band. This is Fairs Farms Colt, a Group 3 winner from France, who won his first start by 7 lengths at Gulfstream. Trying to get a comeback today after a bad performance at Oaklawn. There he is, Pat Day, 5-time winner of the Jim Beam. The 8, Sir Walter Lizelot, second in the John Battaglia Prep, has been the runner-up in 3 of his 4 starts this year. The jockey is Terry Houghton, among the top 10 Turfway riders, leading rider at Detroit Race Course. The 9 horse is Road Rush, a son of Broad Brush, improving colt, has never been off the board in 5 career starts, coming here from Florida. The rider, the veteran Early Fires, rider of some 30 years. He's won riding titles in Kentucky, Illinois, and Florida. The 10, War Deputy. He won the Brown & Williamson at Churchill Downs at 2, his only start this year. He ran a very poor race at the fairgrounds, beaten by almost 19 lengths in the Risen Star. Jerry Bailey, the rider, he won the 1991 Jim Beam on Hansel. Rounding out the field, here's the local star, the late running winner of the John Battaglia, Mahogany Hall, a $120,000 Keeneland sale purchase, son of the Woodman. He has won 3 of 4 starts. The jockey, up-and-coming young rider, Willie Martinez, at just 23, a multiple riding champion here at Turfway Park. There is the field for the 1994 Jim Beam Stakes. 11 going to the post, 9 furlongs, fast racetrack, and again, $360,000 awaiting the winner. We'll be back with more of our coverage of the Jim Beam. Stay with us from Turfway Park. The starting gate is in place, just behind the 8th pole here on this mile track. 9 furlongs, a mile and an eighth for the $600,000 Jim Beam Stakes. Got some exciting news to announce to you today. A new day and a new time for the Daily Racing Forms Racehorse Digest. Starting next week, we'll be on Tuesdays at 3:30 Eastern. Join us for the only national weekly recap of thoroughbred, harness, and quarter horse racing. And you see the 3-year-olds warming up on the back stretch. And of course, we're wondering, how will these pieces to our puzzle we showed you earlier fit? And everybody's thinking not just this race, but down the road to Churchill Downs. Let's give you an update now, how the fans see it at Turfway Park. Here are the odds, presented by Auto Tote. Polar Expedition 9-2, the second choice. Shepherd's Field at 20. Southern Rhythm, morning line favorite, has remained the choice at 5-2. Almaraz, a big price. Powis Castle at 4. Dynafleet at 35. Chimes Band at 7. Sir Walter Lizelot, the biggest price on the board. Road Rush at 5. Ward Deputy 9. And Mahogany Hall, the Battaglia winner, at 8-1. Great betting race, big field. We're looking for a horse with a price. Here's your Budweiser long shot for the Jim Beam.
Believe it or not, for today's Budweiser long shot, we went back to 1986 when the track was still known as Latonia. It was our first Jim Beam telecast here on ESPN, and the winner was Broad Brush. We hope he's passed that winning trait on to his son, Road Rush, because he's today's Bud long shot. This Canadian bred hasn't been out of the money in 5 starts, and his 3 victories are impressive, especially his 1994 debut 5 weeks ago in Florida. Unlike his daddy, Road Rush comes from off the pace, here from dead last to win by 3 widening lengths. So we want a fast pace and confirmation of that old adage, like father, like son. Well, that would be Road Rush, son of Broad Brush, today's Budweiser long shot.
And there is Road Rush. Mike Battaglia, outstanding line maker and track announcer here, opened him at 10-1. They've now bet the Bud long shot down to 5-1. That's your long shot today. Welcome back to Turfway Park in Florence, Kentucky, where today's feature race, the $600,000 Jim Beam Stakes, is presented by Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. And that's what's on people's mind right now, trying to find a sure bet in this big Jim Beam field. Let's give you, again, a look at the current odds here at Turfway Park. The odds presented again by Auto Tote, and this reflects what a great betting race this is. As you see on the inside with the rail there, Polar Expedition at 4-1, Shepherd's Field at 20. Southern Rhythm remains the 5-2 favorite. Powis Castle getting support at 4. The rest of our field here for the Jim Beam, you see support for Road Rush, our Bud Longshot 5-1. Chelsea?
Well, that's a horse I like too, Road Rush, but they've all got to beware of this racetrack. It has been very kind of loose and dry today. It's been very windy. They put a bit more water on it here later in the afternoon, but they ran 6.5 furlongs in 19 and 20 today. So I don't think our stakes and track record will be threatened.
The stakes and track record, one and the same, and it belongs to Hansel, who won this Jim Beam in 1991. 146-3 is the mark. But again, as Chelsea said, the times have been slower today. So much potential, so many questions to be answered, Dave, and it's almost time to find some answers.
And here's my answer. Chimes Band at 8-1. What a bargain that one is with the white blinkers. And the blinkers should keep his mind on business. Wayne Lucas added them, as we heard a bit earlier in the program. Here's one of the long shots. Sir Walter Lies a lot. He's been second in his last three. The Bud Longshot and Early Fires, the pilot, they're known for getting a horse out and keeping him on the lead when he should collapse, but he's on a late speedster today. War Deputy with Jerry Bailey. Jerry just won a stakes race in the 10th, and the late speedster, Mahogany Hall. 11 of them ready for the Beam, 1994. Bud Longshot acting up. All set, and they're off. And on the inside, Polar Expedition from the rail takes the early lead. Powis Castle is right there. And here comes Chimes Band with the white blinkers. 3 off the rail and moving up. Sir Walter Lies-a-Lot caught wide 4th as Pin Kai tucks Shepherd's Field into the 5th spot and saves ground in the red cap along the inside rail. Southern Rhythm is alongside next. Then a gap of a length and a half, and Dinah Fleet in the green cap at the rail is next. The Bud Longshot, Road Rush in the black cap and the blue colors on the outside. Then War Deputy, 3rd from last. A gap of 3 to the 2 trailers, Mahogany Hall, and Alvarez, the longest shot on the board, is 11th and last. 13 lengths from the leader. And the leader, as expected, is Polar Expedition with Kurt Bork in the irons, taking the lead now by 2 1/4 lengths. As Chimes Band moves a closer second. Powis Castle with Antley at the rail in 3rd. Shepherd's Field right there 4th. Now, Southern Rhythm on the outside begins to close ground. He's 5th, but only 3 off the lead. As they go to the far turn, Polar Expedition lets out another notch. He's in front by 2 and running easily. Powis Castle on the inside, right there second by a head, and gaining on the front runner. Here comes Powis Castle with a powerful move now into the 2nd spot. Chimes Band in the checkered colors racing in 3rd. On the outside, Southern Rhythm is 4th, and just behind those in the red cap is Shepherd's Field. They're at the top of the stretch in the Beam, and it's been Polar Expedition every step of the way, but here comes Powis Castle on the outside, and down the stretch they come. Polar Expedition digging in and hanging on as Powis Castle is the only one with a chance to catch him. Here's the finish. Polar Expedition by a long neck, wire to wire. On the outside, Powis Castle was second in a big effort. The final time, 1:49. I believe Chimes Band finished 3rd. What a beam!
What a story. Polar Expedition. Right from the start, people said this colt was the only speed in the race, and he had the rail on a racetrack that usually favors speed, and it certainly held up today. Wire-to-wire winner, Polar Expedition. The gelding owned by James Cody, trained by Hugh Robertson, and ridden by Kurt Bork. What a performance by Polar Expedition. Now, that's way off the stakes and track time, which was 1:46.3. 1:49. Not especially fast, but Chauncey, position was important.
Well, especially for Polar Expedition. He has had up until this point won 6 of 8 starts, and he had to be on the lead. The 2 times he did not win, he did not have the lead. He got the lead today and held it all the way. This track is known for favoring speed horses. We saw it earlier in the Rushaway, and here you see Polar Expedition. He controlled it all the way. Powis Castle made a huge big effort. He really tried hard, and maybe was gaining on him pretty strongly at the end there, but that's not where it counted. It was Polar Expedition at the wire.
A homebred, and they've got to be pleased in Illinois. That's an Illinois bred you're looking at. Polar Expedition, unofficial winner of the Jim Beam Stakes. His sire is Kodiak. His dam, Wing C. ESPN's live coverage of the $600,000 Jim Beam Stakes is being presented by Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. Well, no sure bet in the Beam, but Polar Expedition, the second choice with the rail, the only speed, holds it wire to wire to win this 13th Jim Beam in 149 flat for the mile and an eighth. Powis Castle second, Chimes Band's third. It's still unofficial. Dave?
Let's take a watch at the start, and if you can, keep your eye on the inside post Polar Expedition from the Cozy 1-hole and from the 5-hole Powis Castle. They will come out a run, and especially Polar Expedition. Kurt Bork gets this horse in gear and at the rail. Of course, it was a real benefit to have the inside post position. And as they move under the wire the first time, it's going to be Polar Expedition, Powis Castle, and Chimes Band. Rarely happens in a race under the wire twice, but that's exactly how they're going to come back the second time. And of course, that's the important one. As Polar Expedition on the inside, Kurt Bork must be having a grin a mile wide. This has to be the biggest win of his career. And Chris Antley, with a strong left-handed whip, is not able to rouse Powis Castle fast enough to catch the early runner. Chimes Band was closer than usual. I believe he salvaged, yes, he did salvage the show spot, but it was all Polar Expedition. Southern Rhythm comes back empty-handed, and under the wire the second time, Deja Vu. 1-5-7, Polar Expedition, Powis Castle, and Chimes Band.
Again, what a big victory for Kurt Bork, the young rider, Hugh Robertson, the trainer, and for James Cody, a resident of Omaha, Nebraska, the owner and the breeder, retired in 1983 from a computer business that he founded. He also bred Polar Expedition by the unknown Cheyenne Kodiak in Illinois. Let's join Charles C. Canty now.
All right, finishing fourth aboard the favorite was Chris McCarron on Southern Rhythm, and you didn't have all the best of trips. What happened, Chris?
Well, I lost ground on the second turn because he was climbing a lot from the sand hitting him in the face down the backside. This is a very coarse sand on the surface here, and it kind of stings the horses a little bit in the eyes as they're catching it while they're running. And because he was resenting that a little bit, I thought, well, I really thought I was on the best horse going in, so I figured I'd put him in the clear when I had the opportunity because he was climbing so badly, and consequently I had to go wide around the next turn because they kind of fanned out on me as I was trying to round the turn.
Let's watch that, and we'll get a good idea of exactly what happened. Here you are on the outside of that first clump in fourth with the white silks there, right?
Yes, at this point he was moving well, but you know, quite frankly, from the quarter pole to the wire, he wasn't running his best at that point. He wasn't running real strong like he had been in his three previous
Watch him go right out of the picture here.
Yeah, but if he was running, he wouldn't have got fanned outs, you know. I mean, I don't know if it was a track surface or what, but I watched the three races on this colt on the tape that they sent me, and I was very, very impressed. And I don't think he fired the same kind of race that he's been running.
So it could either be track surface, or could it be the distance?
Oh, I don't think it was a distance. If he ran up and hung inside the 8th pole or inside the 16th pole, I'd say, well, maybe it was the distance. That would be a question. But I didn't have a lot of horse when I straightened out for home, and he'd only run about 7/8 at that point, so I don't necessarily think it was the distance.
Another inexplicable performance among these three-year-olds. Yeah. But, Chris, thanks very much, and we'll go to the other Chris, Lincoln, right now.
Well, those puzzle pieces are scattered all over the place. As you see, Barry Barish, Jerry Carroll making their presentations here, too. The connections of Polar Expedition. And here you see him with Kurt Bork, winner of the Jim Beam.
What a sports weekend this is, and a holiday weekend at that, with the Final Four and the beginning of the baseball season, and the Jim Beam now official here at Turfway Park. And the winner, Polar Expedition, winner of the Arlington, Washington Futurity at 2, winner of the Jim Beam, and paying $10, $5.60 and $4.20. Second was Powis Castle at $5.40 and $4.20. Chimes Band third at $4.60. The exacta 1-5 combo, $37.40. The winning time $1.49. Charles C.
Well, I've got the team here. Kurt Bork, who rode Polar Expedition, Hugh Robertson, who trains the colt. First of all, Hugh, you said that the reason he got beat the last time he ran was because maybe you had him a little short because he'd hurt himself the start before that when he won the Mountain Valley. Well, obviously, you were right.
I think so. I think I was maybe a little bit overly cautious with him after he hit himself the time before, and a couple of his works were maybe a little slower than what we would have really wanted him to do. So I thought he would progress a little bit in his conditioning off that race, and I guess he did.
And he got a heady ride by Kurt Bork, who's been on him all but 2 of his starts. And what do you think the key was for your victory today?
I think the key was breaking from the 1-hole, Chelsea. He left there running, and I get to settle him down. He rated very kind for me and finished real strong. So I think the key was the 1-hole, breaking from the rail.
Well, I know you two would enjoy seeing this race one more time. We'll take a look at it, and here you are, cruising easy.
Yeah, he's running nice and easy here. He come back to me real good. His horse run up on the outside of him, and he kind of grabbed the bridle took off a little. I didn't want to go that early, but he was wanting to go, so I let him out, and he finished up great.
Hugh, this is a Triple Crown trail right now full of speed. Would you like to hook Holy Bull?
Not really. We'll probably go to Keeneland after this, keep him there for a couple weeks and see what transpires with the rest of the horses leading up to the Derby, and then make our decision from there. Right now, we're just happy with this race and what to see.
And well, you should be. Good job by both of you. Congratulations. And we'll go over to Chris Lincoln.
Thank you, Chachi. I was struck by something you, Robertson, had said earlier about this colt with the obscure breeding by Kodiak. He said he reminds me of a tough guy who walks in a bar and someone says, "Do you want a drink?" And he whips the guy first, then says, "Okay, now I'll have that drink." That's how he's characterized this Polar Expedition. And he is a horse that has certainly shown that he is tough. Little, but tough. And now he heads on that road to the Kentucky Derby. Where do some of the other puzzle pieces fit? Well, certainly, I guess Powis Castle has to be considered. Barry Gordy's got to be pleased with that. So, also, would Chimes Band. We'll see how they fit. Dave?
Just a few shopping days before they really hit the trail for the Kentucky Derby. Of course, next week, the West Coast picture will come into better focus with the Santa Anita Derby being run. But let's take a look at the future book odds for horses who were not in action this weekend. Bronco, Tabasco Cat, Valiant Nature, and Strode's Creek all expected in the Santa Anita race next Saturday. And the Bluegrass will probably be the next stop for Holy Bull and perhaps Go for Gin. But one thing is certain, that the odds on Polar Expedition will plummet like the Dow, because he is on the road, followed by such names as Hansel and a little horse by the name of Prairie Bayou last year. So let's look for Polar Expedition down the road. Chris?
Our road to the Triple Crown will continue next Saturday as we head to Oklahoma and their richest three-year-old event. That's the Remington Park Derby, and we're looking forward to catching up with an old friend of ours, Silver Goblet. He has been on some kind of tear. We saw him win the Remington Futurity last fall. He's now on a 5-race winning streak, and you'll get to see him next week. Coming up next here on ESPN, it's the richest event so far on the Cadillac Senior PGA Tour. Live coverage of the third round of the Tradition. That's coming up live from Scottsdale, Arizona, next here on ESPN. As we continue on the road to the Triple Crown here today, the Jim Beam Stakes, the $600,000 richest race before the Kentucky Derby. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage, brought to you by Thrifty Car Rental, historically known for low rates, by Keeneland, source of the classic horse, Budweiser, Beechwood Age for a clean, crisp, classic taste, and by the Thoroughbred Racing Associations, assuring the highest racing standards. Ground transportation provided by Thrifty Car Rental. For reservations at over 850 locations worldwide, call Thrifty at 1-800-4CARS. Thrifty Car Rental, racing across America, is produced by ESPN in association with Winter Communications. Well, we shook him up and tried to find a new piece for the Triple Crown puzzle, and here he is. Polar Expedition. He led from flagpole to that's all. On the rail, showing his speed, the Illinois bred, owned by James Cody, trained by Hugh Robertson, ridden by Kurt Bork. Today wins the Jim Beam and marches on towards the Derby.